Where's the clock? 7:07 on the dot. Tonight, I have one motion I'll bring out first, and we'll vote on that, and then I will talk about the second one in a moment. So the first motion I have is I move that all commercial industrial classification accounts in the city with personal property assessments at $10,000 and lower shall be exempt from personal property taxation. Said exemption shall be a local adoption under MGL Chapter 59 Taxation Section 18 exemption under Section 5 and shall become effective for fiscal year 2019. No public hearing is required to adopt this MGL.
Second.
Thank you. Stan came in, gave us a really nice briefing on this. I know that I do want to thank my fellow counselors. The last time we did this, we did sort of a graduated move up, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad to see that we're at the place that we have wanted to be. But
Committee members first, but
committee members first, that's all right.
I'd like to make a comment.
No, go ahead.
Done.
Mr. Councilor Blair, got a question?
No, not a question, just a
Comment?
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Being a ex-small business owner, I know with this exemption, back when I was in business, we paid from the first dollar almost, and it's really a help to the small business person out there. Every dollar counts in today's economy especially, so I wholeheartedly approve it.
Well, thank you very much. Anybody else? Councilor, Vice President Parika?
Thank you. I will support this when it comes in front of the full council. When we had the initial discussion a few years back about this, I pushed really hard to move it up to the 10 because, so I guess the lesson learned here is just wait, it'll come back.
Yeah.
And we'll get what we want in the end. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, great. Okay, so let's, since the motion is out there, I'd like to make a motion to approve this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? And this is for Councilor Jackson and Councilor Holmes. Okay, good. So that passes unanimously. The second is I move to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 14, 2018, relative to amending the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro, Chapter 3, Building to amend Section 3-9, work started prior to obtaining permit, line 2 and 3, to reflect a fine up to the assessed property value as listed on the assessor's records at the time of demolition, to replace the triple fee language, which is currently set at a maximum of 3 times $30 or $90 for the maximum, where any work except provided by Section 3-9.1 for which permit is required by 780 CMR, the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, any other applicable code is started or proceeded without prior to obtaining such permit shall pay a fine up to the assessed property value as listed on the assessor's records at the time of demolition. Payment of the fine shall not relieve any person from fully complying with the requirements of the above-mentioned codes and ordinances in execution of the work, and shall also not offer relief, that should be, relief from, I believe that's what that is, so I'll get that corrected, any other prescribed penalties.
Second.
Thank you. So, this actually was brought in through Marion Wrightington from the Historical Commission. It's something that they wanted to see as a result of an incident that happened with a carriage house here and a property that was very valuable from a preservation standpoint to the City of Attleboro. And the folks, people were aware of it, but the person involved in this did not follow the process and went ahead and demolition anyways. So we want to make sure that there's a stronger fine applied to get people to think twice and 3 times before they do something of the sort. Okay, that's it. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so we'll call for a public hearing on August 14th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And that concludes the business of the ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I'll close this out at 7:05. Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're closed at 7:05. Thank you so much.
I will call the Personnel and Human Service Committee to order at 7:06. Committee members are Councilor Reynolds and Councilor Blair and myself. And I have a guest tonight who joined the Cultural Council. His name's Sean Quigley, so I invite him to meet the council.
Hello? I don't know if I should.
Yeah, come up.
You can, yeah.
Louder? Yeah. No, my name's Sean Quigley. I've lived in Attleboro for about 5 years or so. It's been an exciting 5 years, so I wanted to get a little bit more involved with the city, the new high school. The neighborhood seems nice, so I look forward to working with you, and this is just kind of a get acquainted, and I appreciate the time and the invite.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, well, hold on.
Oh, don't go away.
This is our opportunity. Yes.
We have a whole list of questions.
Yes, yes. No, this is just an opportunity for us to really thank you for being involved, and I think that committee is almost full right now, so you'll get to meet some of the other members, and that's great. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
Just a thank you for volunteering. Get involved, stay involved,
Thank you.
and you'll enjoy it, I think.
No, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a great experience.
That's great.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks again for
Thanks
coming.
again,
Take good care. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, Council Julius. Yes, yes.
It's a good crowd. Normally that's like.
First of all, we always love when people come out and volunteer. That's what really sets Attleboro aside. And
Thank
it's
you.
interesting. My family has recently, over the last 18 months, become involved with Attleboro Community Theater. And it's great to see that a big supporter of really kind of a lesser-known jewel in the city is the Cultural Council. So, just want to thank you, let you know that these are some of the things that people might not know that the Cultural Council does, and I think
Sure.
you'll be a great fit. So thank you very much for volunteering.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming out. All right, have a great night.
Dismissed?
Thank you.
So, and then I have two motions. From the docket of July 17, 2018, I entertain a motion to confirm the reappointment of Brad Goldstein to the Cultural Council for a 2-year term to expire February 2020.
Second.
This is just a reappointment for Mr. Goldstein. Any comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to establish a laboratory manager position to be replaced, I believe it's supposed to say, at grade 7 on the city's classification plan.
Second.
This, it looks like the job description was reviewed, and it did come in backup communication. Some felt like it needed to be placed in a different grade level. Does anybody have any comments about that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. So I can entertain a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Not here.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, we are adjourned at 7:08. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call to order city property and claims at 7:08. My committee members, of course, are myself, Council Blair, and Council Holmes. I have two motions this evening from the docket of July 17th, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of $250 in Stop and Shop gift certificates from the Attleboro Elks Riders to the Veterans Department.
Second.
Thank you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but does anybody have any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, that motion passes. Also from the docket of July 17, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to allow the Attleboro Public Library to expend approximately $15,000 of the grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, the City of Attleboro for the community-wide Big Read program, and any other further grant amendments by the Attleboro Public Library to support the Big Read program activities as authorized by the granting authority.
Second.
Again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. And that is all the business City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, so I'd like to request an adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. And I'm going to adjourn at 7:10. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
I'd like to call budget and appropriations to order at 7:10. I have 5 motions to bring in front of the council this evening. The first 3 are basically just some funding and some expenditures that we need in order to to get things on the books for the end of the fiscal year. First, from the docket of July 17th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $110,000 from 8505599000 E-rate stabilization fund, other financing uses to fund 2701-499000 E-rate IT fund, other financing sources regarding the need for an appropriation from the E-rate stabilization fund in order to engineer, build, and utilize a Wi-Fi network that will be installed at the high school.
Second.
Second.
Nobody spoke up.
I appreciate it.
Didn't want to leave you hanging.
No, I appreciate that. This is pretty straightforward. So earlier in the year, we voted to enact the E-rate stabilization fund, which is designed for these sort of technology and IT projects. So the network's going to allow for the taking of the state standardized tests electronically, which we're required to do at the high school level in the spring of 2019. So as you can see, this is something that we need to do, and the network constructor will be able to be repurposed upon the demolition of the existing building. So this is something that will help seniors next year, next school year, as well as we'll be able to carry this network over. Councilor Copus.
I just wanted to say it's a great thing, and you answered my question about being able to repurpose it into the new high school, so.
Yeah, I had the same, and Mark Furtado was very clear in the communication, which was great. So just so people know why it's $110,000, is it's going to be a purchase of 450 Chromebooks, as the testing is across an entire class, approximately 450 students. The remaining $70,000 will be used for engineering and construction. Both purchases will be made off of the state contract, which I know Mr. Conti appreciates. Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Also from the docket of July 17th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to allow the Council on Aging to expend approximately $18,822 for the first quarter, with the anticipated balance of approximately $75,285 of the fiscal 19 Shine Grant, and to also expend any further grant amendments.
Second.
I'm going to give that one to you, Mr. Conchi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So what I find is best with this is I want to read from Madeline's. So from Madeline McNeely, the Attleboro Council on Aging is the regional host agency for the Shine Grant that provides health benefit counseling for Bristol County. Funding from the Shine Grant provides the salary, insurance, Medicare tax for the regional Shine director, counselor training, health benefits, university, and supplies. For fiscal year 2019, we anticipate the Shine Grant award will be in the amount of $94,107. We have received contractual confirmation of the first quarter expenditure of $18,822, with the balance of $75,285 pending federal budget approval. Please note this is not unusual. So since the award amount is subject to change throughout the fiscal year, I'm also seeking approval to expend future amendments during the fiscal year 2019. Acceptance of this grant does not require additional city funds, where a lot of times some of these grants will. This Shine Grant is an essential piece to what Madeline does. During the budget hearing, she was down and she spoke about this. She spoke about her concerns about it. So this is an important grant. This is where the counselor is funded, so I would wholeheartedly support this motion 110%. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Holmes.
Yes, I always have to speak when it's a Shine counselor. So this individual helps seniors with Medicare, which is a very complex process. They really have an inside knowledge of just different things that are happening with Medicare, and can help seniors decide what plans they're going to have. It's so great that we have it. And Shine counselors aren't everywhere. So, for instance, if somebody's in Plainville, they may come to Attleboro to help. So it's really important that we keep them here and that we have this resource for individuals in Attleboro.
Well stated, thank you. And we see year after year, Madeline comes down with her impassioned plea, and I think it's really Council Holmes, you did a nice job. I'm not going
All
to
right.
continue to pontificate. Any other questions or concerns on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, motion passes. Okay. Also from the docket of July 17th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro to allow the Council on Aging to expend approximately $94,812 of the fiscal year 2019 formula grant of approximately $94,812 and any further grant amendments.
Second.
Thank you, Council Corbis. Don't worry, there's two more. You guys can fight it out over. Oh, yeah, no, fair point.
I got those.
So the formula grant provides funding to the Council on Aging for clerical support staff, fitness instructors, guest speakers, annual volunteer recognition, and assorted supplies and expenses. For fiscal year 2019, we anticipate the formula grant award will be in the approximately $94,812. Since the award is subject to change throughout the fiscal year, Madeline is also seeking approval to expend future amendments during the fiscal year 2019. This is another way that Madeline and her team are able to provide the services to us seniors that they so desperately rely on. I think it's great. At one point, I was talking with Madeline, and she's like, "Oh, do you know we have Nintendo Wiis, and the seniors come down, and that's part of their fitness." And I know they have Dominic Katoya comes down, and they do a 50s night and stuff like that. So all of this stuff is just really what sets our Council of Aging apart from others. So, and again, both the Shine and the Formula Grant, the stuff we put forth every year. And again, it's been said a million times, but it can't go unnoticed for the passion and the hard work that Madeline McNeely puts in. As fortunate as we are to have those grants, we're more fortunate to have Madeline. She really, you talk about someone who puts her heart into this, she truly, truly does. So all the comments I have on that. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, can I be excused?
You may. I was just going to suggest that.
You can go home, we can call you.
You all right, Rick?
President, will you do my third on this?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. From the supplemental docket of June 5th, 2018, I entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to purchase on behalf of the city of the Chapter 7 trustee of the estate of the Highland Country Club of Attleboro, Mass. for the United States Bankruptcy Court for the District of Massachusetts Eastern Division for a purchase price of $3,021,000.66. Certain land adjacent to the Frank R. Sweet Memorial Forest on terms and conditions satisfactory to the mayor. Said land, together with the buildings thereon, being the land known as the Highland Country Club and located at 104 Mechanic Street, Attleboro, Massachusetts, and more particularly described as parcels A, B, and C as shown on a plan entitled Plan of Land in Attleboro, Massachusetts to be conveyed to Highland Country Club of Attleboro, Mass., scale 200 feet to an inch, December 1975, James A. Freeman Engineering Incorporated, 429 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass. Which plan is recorded in Bristol County Northern District Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 154 on page 80, and also that the land described in Book 6093, page 131, recorded in said Registry of Deeds, and to borrow the appropriate funds needed for the purchase of such land.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kobus. It was close, but we'll go with Mr. Kobus. So this is to authorize the mayor to purchase Highland Country Club. The next motion will be for the loan authorization. I'm going to save my comments for the next motion, but I would like to open it up if anyone else has any comments on this. Sorry. Councilor Kobus, then Councilor Blair.
I hate your committee.
Thank you.
My comments are primarily towards the second one, so I'll hold off until then.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Blair.
I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I've done a lot of soul searching the last couple of weeks and have thoroughly investigated the purchase and the possibilities of what can be done with it, how it can be paid for, and I'm confident at this point that I've had assurances, and I am quite confident within relatively short term, we should be able to pay that off and retain the biggest portion of it. And I think Mr. Walsh did a great presentation. I think it's time that we look to the future, the future generations. I don't want to overtax the school system. We're in a building boom as it is. You have a number of new subdivisions going in with large number of homes. I think it's a great purchase, and I did a lot of soul searching because I know I was vocal on the point of opposing it. But after the right type of study and taking any personalities out of it, I feel that it's the right thing to do for the citizens of Attleboro and any future generations coming along, that we preserve as big a portion of that property as we can for the future.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else questions or concerns on this piece of business? Okay, my expectation tonight is that we will vote both of these out of committee, and I will introduce them at the full council later on this evening. Seeing no other questions or concerns, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None, motion passes. From the supplemental docket of June 5th, 2018, I entertain a motion to adopt the following loan order. Ordered that $1,100,000 is appropriated for the acquisition of land, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $3,100,000 under Section 7, subsection 1 of Chapter 44 of the general laws of any other enabling authority, and that the mayor is authorized to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out this acquisition. Any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds and notes approved by this order, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds and notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this order in accordance with Chapter 4, Section 7.1 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, I think you said Chapter 4, Section 7, subsection 1, when you read the last
Oh,
line,
you-
is Chapter 44.
Yep. Take that as a friendly amendment.
Yep.
Thank you. So a couple different things before I get to my comments. People told me buying a house would be the biggest investment of my life. So there were a lot of great questions raised last week at the public hearing. I know Councilor Cobus had reached out to me on a couple things, so I'd like to address those. I think, Councilor, a lot of what was in there should be addressed by the administration and isn't necessarily, it should be addressed by the administration, which I did forward the email off to Mayor Hero today. I did hear back from the auditor and the city treasurer, and they both basically said the same thing, and I'll send this out tonight. I'll also give you a copy as well. But on May 30th, he asked Paul to see the mayor to see Paul on how we intend to address roughly $5 million of urgent capital improvements. So one thing that I can share, in the auditor and the treasurer agree, is that Barry Lacasse, Laura, and Deb met on debt-related issues recently, and it is their understanding that the library, Council of Aging, HVAC projects are included in the forecast as projects to be funded. And I think we recently took care of both of those, I believe, last week as emergency measures. As far as the contributory retirement board, I think we all have concerns there. Neither are authorized to speak on behalf of the administration. However, the final number for the Contributory retirement system is yet to be determined. Deb has every reasonable expectation that the increase will not be as significant as originally projected in April. Please keep in mind increases are for all 3 member units, and that increase to the city's share is shared by water, wastewater, school, and general government. I believe this matter will be taken up in the near future. The next meeting is July 26th at 9. Barry participated in the conference call with PARAC, 2 board members and the city actuary. So I know it doesn't 100% answer what you were looking to do, but I think from where they're authorized and what they can do, I think some of it, the rest of it has to do with the administration, and I think Mayor Haro, I expect an answer from Mayor Haro, at which point I will certainly share that with you. Does that suffice, I hope?
Not entirely, but
Okay, I understand, I truly do. The other thing, so on June 20th, I sent an email to President Cooper, who was able to send it off to the city solicitor. So I'll read my email, and then I'll read the solicitor's response. I was hoping to get an opinion from the solicitor on the uses of property purchased by a municipality under 61B, in this case Highland. I would like to know if there are restrictions on future uses of the land if the city buys and/or if the city decides to buy the property and later resell the property. I want to ensure there are no unintended liabilities. It is important to me to ensure, given the accelerated timeframes we have to work within, we fully vet exactly how Chapter 61B works and it impacts the city, and if there's anything that can be taken into consideration when we vote. I'm concerned with the Tamposi's assertion, if not handled correctly, we could end up in a litigious situation. This is from the solicitor. I think you each have copies of this. The city has a right of first refusal to purchase the property under Chapter 61B. The city needs to make sure it follows all steps in Mass General Law, Chapter 61B, subsection 9, including but not limited to holding a public hearing, which we did. And if the city decides to exercise the right of first refusal, it must record notice of exercise in a timely manner, which we're on track to do that. Once the city purchases the property, it may use it for any municipal purpose. I edited the city council votes to purchase the property and deleted the language which would have designated the parcel as recreational or conservation land, which could cause a problem down the line if the city wanted to dispose of the property or use it for another municipal purpose, particularly under Article 97 of the Massachusetts Constitution. Therefore, the city votes leaves open what purpose the city will use the property for, and such the property may be used for any municipal purpose. So I just want to make sure that, we had all of our ducks in a row as we went forward. So as far as the motion is concerned, a few comments is, I went back and forth on whether I was going to bring this out tonight. And initially, I was going to bring it out of committee at the very least, but I think we need to be able to move forward on this one way or another. To say I have concerns would honestly be an understatement. We spent capital improvement and budget talking about closing the checkbook, and now we're here with a $3.1 million purchase in front of us. I would have liked to seen the administration in the early stages sit down with the Tamposi's to see if an accord could have been reached. That didn't happen, and that's fine. I am in favor of this motion for several reasons. First, it gives us leverage. So, as Councilor Blair was alluding to in his comments of the last motion, it gives us leverage on what we can do. Secondly, land is a commodity that we're not growing any more of. The city's growing, we don't have additional land. I think Dennis did a really nice job, again, as Councilor Blair was referring to, talking about this sort of forward vision is why we have Finberg Field, why we have Ponce and Hewitt today. I don't know what the future use is. I'm not going to sit here and speculate. My druthers is to see this piece of property saved in case we need it for municipal property. Maybe it's a new park, maybe it's walking trails, whatever that is. We're not deciding that tonight. We're deciding whether or not we buy this piece of property. I encourage the administration to look at all funding solutions, grant unexpended funds. I'm concerned about the shortfall in year one, and I hear the words of the treasurer in my head over and over again, advising us to be wary of the implications. Therefore, I'm going to advocate the city look for repayment of the loan from the ARA gave us to help offset some of this cost. I think that will offset some of the shortfall. I think it will help us as we have other expenses coming down. We have to all be in this together. I think it will help to give us a little bit of breathing room. I want to thank everyone who called me, wrote letters, text messages, Facebook. I haven't been able to get back to all of you, but I plan to, whether this passes or fails. the passion we saw on both sides last week shows really the importance this piece of property has to this community. If this passes, each vote we take needs to be heavily scrutinized going forward as it relates to capital improvements, as it relates to realistically anything else going on. As we said in our budget message, every vote we take today is going to impact Attleboro tomorrow. Again, I am very much in favor of this property, of buying this property, but I think that we have to look at everything as it comes down, because it's $3.1 million is a lot, but I think as the point was made last week, we can't afford not to take advantage of this opportunity because it's not going to come again. Thank you. Councilor Corbis.
I do have a couple comments, and I feel this is the appropriate time. So let me start by saying that I support the purchase of Highland Country Club and feel if forced to vote tonight, I intend to vote in favor of it. However, I have numerous concerns, many of which you mentioned just now. But prior to this meeting, I had the following concerns, and I'd like to list those out here. The first one being that on June 8th, when we received copies of the spreadsheets commonly referred to as the Debt Bible, I requested a debt service overview that might help us to understand the administration's plan moving forward. I think we still need that presentation. 2, we still have $5 million worth of urgent capital improvement projects. The Highland Country Club document is focused on how debt spending can be redirected to pay for Highland Country Club, but did not discuss how we intend to address our existing infrastructure needs. I think this needs to be fleshed out. 3, we have a pending issue with our contributory retirement account, which you briefly discussed. My understanding is the crisis initially reported in April has likely been reduced, but we will still see a significant cost increase next year. I think we need an understanding of how this will impact the fiscal year 2020 budget. 4, how does the staging area for the high school save the city money, or does that money go back to the MSBA? 5, how will the much talked about economic downturn impact the 2020 or 2021 budget? And then another item, during the public hearing, an argument was made that we can afford Highland Country Club because our debt spending is down to 2.6% of the total levy, down from 6% 15 years ago. This should have been an argument against the purchase. 2.6% of our $70 million levy is roughly $1.8 million. That is only $1.8 million to spend toward long-term capital projects annually. The vast majority of the remaining budget is dedicated to contractual operational costs such as salaries. If we agree to spend over $400,000 annually on Highland Country Club for 10 years, we will only have $1.4 million remaining of that 1.8 for the long-term capital projects in the city, where we already struggle to maintain our roadways. Excuse me. And that decrease represents a 22% reduction. So all of this with the context of a budget that directed almost all Proposition 2.5 increases to operational costs, such as hiring a new economic director, leaves me with concerns about our ability to keep up with our existing assets and contractual obligations even before purchasing 93 acres of open space. I don't yet feel we have the full context within which to make this decision. I raise these points not to persuade my fellow councilors to vote against the purchase, but to make sure we all understand that budget season next year may be very difficult. I'd also like to mention that I was impressed by the information provided by the Tamposi brothers and the manner in which they conducted themselves. But this isn't about them, it's about us. We need to focus on what is best for our community. I guess we're all going to talk about Dennis Walsh. So last week when Dennis Walsh spoke about the council being nervous because the timing isn't right or our finances are too tight, I feel he hit the nail on the head. He then encouraged us to meet that challenge head on and invest in our community's future. I agree with Dennis. It is our duty as the current stewards of this community to capitalize on an opportunity to purchase a truly unique asset for future generations. And I'd like to share that this vote right now is why I agreed to run for city council. This chance to work together with each of you and have a direct positive impact on our families, friends, and neighbors for generations to come, to look beyond simply next year's budget season or election. This is why I chose to serve. And this service is personally deeply rewarding for me, and I hope all of you join me in voting yes on this.
Council, thank you for your comments. You're right, my wife often says this is not for the faint of heart. You know, we signed up to make the tough decisions, and this is one of the toughest decisions we've had to face in a couple of years. As far as the debt Bible presentation, speaking with the treasurer, we still plan to do that. I know during the budget, we had tentatively decided on July 11th for a meeting with the Budget and Appropriations Committee, as well as the auditor, Budget Administration, and the treasurer. We're going to have to reschedule that due to some scheduling conflicts. That's when I expect to really get that full presentation, as that's going to be a big part of what we're looking to do. The retirement board, we spoke about capital improvements, we understand. My understanding, and if anyone can jump in, for the high school is the staging will save money, whatever it is, right? We don't know what that money is. It could be $50, could be $4 million. That money does not go back to the, necessarily won't go back to the MSBA. It can be reapplied to the cost of the building. So it could potentially go to something that maybe we weren't able to do first time around. You know, if we choose not to put it towards the project, then yes, it would have to go back to the state. That spending, I 100% agree, and I'm expecting to hear that come back from Mayor Hero. That was part of the email that was sent. Next budget, I think, will definitely be an interesting budget for several reasons. As far as the Tamposi's presentation, you know, I hope that they really learned what Attleboro was about. You know, personally, I wasn't a big fan of them telling us about our finances. I think the 11 of us here are better suited to have that discussion. I do appreciate the Tamposi's coming down, and I do appreciate some of the things they were saying, and I would encourage them to, you know, continue to look in Attleboro. There are other ways they can contribute. So thank you for your well thought out, as always, comments, Council Cobus. Council Blair, Council Reynolds, did I see you here, Council Jackson? Okay. Council Blair.
Thanks for all your work, and I was glad to hear you mention ARA's commitment to the city. That money should come back. We made that hard decision, help bail them out with the agreement. When they got some money, it would come back to the city. That's a way to pay for a couple of years' costs for the city on this particular project. So thank you very much for listening to me on that and speaking about it tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. And, you know, I mean, it's an avenue we have to explore.
Gotta play them all.
You know, I think that it would give us some breathing room, and I think it's something that, again, we need to explore.
Yeah.
Council Reynolds.
Well, I'm just going to be pretty brief. I'd just like to say that I was pleased, very pleased, to see the outpouring of support from all of the people in Attleboro that showed up here at the public hearing to purchase and save this land for the future use of all the city residents. And because I believe that I, as an elected city official, a city councilor, actually work for those same people, I will, without hesitation, be voting for yes on the city purchasing Highland Country Club.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Councilor Holmes and Councilor Hall.
First. So I have something written as well. I'd like to start off by stating that the municipal council did not ask for this or seek out this opportunity, but we have an obligation to respond to the residents requesting that the city purchase Highland Country Club. I believe we were all well aware that the residents who attended the public hearing were largely in support of the city council approving the purchase of Highland Country Club. There were also many residents who could not attend, but also reached out in favor of the purchase. The residents that reached out were not just from the neighborhood, but they ranged from Oak Hill Ave to Augsburg Drive to Lindsay Street to Cynthia Lane. This parcel of land is centrally located, and the size of the property makes the purchase that much more significant to the city. This land is large enough that it does have the potential to drastically change the landscape of Attleboro. For the reasons I stated, I will be voting in favor of the City Council to approve the purchase. With that being said, I would expect that the next transition to be organized effort from the administration. The next steps should be swift, transparent, and deliberate. Although the residents largely supported this, they did want to hear what to expect after the purchase. I understand this body only had 120 days to act, but this requires the administration to now follow through with commitments on creating a committee of sorts to review the options. And I know that that was mentioned, and I hope that that is followed through. That's something we follow through on, or they follow through on. Lastly, it is important to remember that no matter how you perceive this vote, this body, I truly believe, does have Attleboro's best interest at heart. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you for your comments. Council Hall.
Yes, thank you, I appreciate that. I too echo the grave concerns that I have that Councilor Cobus brought up. And in light of that, there are still some negotiations that still have to come forward that we don't even know yet, okay? So there is some concerns that definitely need to be addressed, and they're very legitimate. But I do want to thank everybody that sent letters, that called me, that stopped me on the street while I was running, and who showed up here for the public meeting. It was one of the most respectful, and I've said this in all the clubs I've been at, most respectful and professional meetings that I've ever attended. There was lots of information, pro and con, which is just simply awesome, because here is my file, okay? I have read everything. I've read every lease that I possibly could, and how this all changed hands over the years. It's actually interesting. Doesn't help us answer this question, but it's very interesting. But it does show a little bit about the people that everybody in, the forefathers, I think, of Attleboro gave a little bit. It wasn't one group, and I think people thought that the Balfour group gave. There were little parcels of land given by citizens all throughout the years to help to build this. So, it definitely was a contribution. I, too, was disappointed that the mayor did not sit down with the Tambothi brothers. I really wish that could have happened also. But in lieu of that, I did want to say, without a doubt, this being a campaign season, somebody reminds me of something that might, sway my decision either way. And I just want to make this clear. The only thing that sways my decision is facts. Facts, information, and circumstances. That's what sways my decision. And it has always been that way. So that being said, the one thing I do wish to interject is that this city does need revenue. So the land, in my opinion, is worth value in what it can produce and what it can be to bring revenue into the city. So I really want the folks, as we move forward, to keep that in mind, that please look to see that something, whatever's done with the land, is bringing revenue into the city, no matter what happens. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Council Hall. Council Dolan.
I don't have anything prepared, but I want to thank my constituents for reaching out to me because they usually don't ever reach out to me. I say I have the toughest ward because they never complain or never call me, but this was a rare occasion where I got a lot of calls and I only had 2 against and the rest were all for. And I want to echo Councilor Reynolds. This is what I was elected to do, to represent my ward, and I fully intend to do that, and I fully support this purchase. I don't necessarily agree with sitting down with any potential purchasers beforehand, because we can certainly do that after the fact if that is what it comes down to. I think we weren't looking for this, like Council Holmes says, but this is an opportunity that we can't afford to pass up, and I will fully support this, and I hope my fellow councilors would do the same. And that concludes my comments.
Okay, good, thank you. Council Perico.
Thank you, Chairperson Delacio. So I would like to thank the committee for your comments, your initial comments this evening. Your thoughtfulness and your ability to touch on some of the things that have brought made it very challenging for me to be able to weed through all of this appropriately. There were roadblocks in my way with this particular topic. And I'd have to say that I think at-large councilors have the toughest wards because we have all of the wards. So I have, and it's difficult being a proactive person in a reactive world. And I know that you and I have had a conversation about that previously. I do have some prepared statements, and it's a little bit messy because I've changed things up a little bit, so if you'll bear with me. This council has an incredible opportunity in front of us here as it pertains to this purchase that's in the heart of our city. We also have an incredible responsibility to both the short-term and the long-term impact on our city budget. During this process, to vet out this potential purchase, I've not once stated that I'm in favor of the purchase or if I'm against the purchase. I've repeatedly asked everyone to trust the process that takes place here and trust my process and allow me to do the work and research every aspect of this purchase. It's the duty of the city councilors to represent all citizens of Attleboro, those for and those against, and truly do your due diligence to ask the questions that need to be asked, even if you don't want to hear them. I listen, and I didn't come into the public hearing with a firm opinion one way or another. And I think that's important behavior when you come into a public hearing, with the exception of telephone polls and things like that. That's kind of an easy no-brainer. I asked the questions when I felt they needed to be asked. And additionally, as the vice president of the council, through the use of parliamentary procedure, we were able to keep this meeting moving forward and on track, as well as, managing some disagreements in the back gallery when people were not playing nice in our sandbox that sits over there. For those that wonder why I left my seat a few times during the public hearing, it was to restore order and decorum to these chambers. All of the comments that have been made, both at the public hearing and those made to me privately from constituents around the city, there are two comments that have resonated with me. Perhaps not surprisingly, the two comments come from opposing sides. Rusty Darconte's comments in regard to the investment made by the city, already with the lost tax revenue since 1980, was a very good argument. It was fact-based, quantifiable, non-emotional, and very pragmatic. Because Highland Country Club was allowed to pay only a percentage of its assessed value and property taxes over the past 38 years, essentially the city has already invested over $2 million in reduced or lost taxes. This investment has given us the right of first refusal and the ability to control this situation that would seem prudent to take this investment into consideration. The second comment came from Mr. Paul Denisi. Paul argued that it was also fact-based, quantifiable, non-emotional, and pragmatic. Paul highlighted the fact that every year we're allowed to increase taxes 2.5 on the existing tax base. As many of you are probably aware, 2.5 is very rarely enough to keep a city moving forward. We struggle with it here in these chambers every single week. Just looking to our neighbors in North Attleboro and in Norton, the 2.5 is putting a stranglehold on those communities. So how does Attleboro do it? We do it because we've had a steady, responsible stream of new residential growth that adds money to the tax levy every year. And we actually see our available money for the city increase at approximately 4%. So without continuing to grow, we will become stagnant. And as we see in our neighboring communities, it's a tough formula to deal with. Both are reasonable and good arguments. Both have a lot of merit from two very respected people in our community. So I guess my question is, why can't we have both? Why can we not find a middle ground that can allow us to cash in our 38-year investment and provide the city the growth that it needs to keep moving forward? For the life of me, I can't understand, again, being that I am a proactive person in a reactive world, I can't for the life of me understand why we did not have a fully painted picture of what our options were before we had this discussion tonight. Why can we not have 48.5 acres of open space and preservation while also providing growth and stability for our community? The absence of that particular discussion does not paint a full picture of the options that the city and this body has to make all of us more comfortable with an affirmative vote. There was a lot of talk about legacy and providing for the future of our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, and people 100 years from now. I agree. We should do that. That's part of our job. We should provide our future Attleboro with a legacy of collaboration, a legacy of cooperation, a legacy of preservation and progress, a legacy of good stewardship to our land, and most importantly, a legacy of financial stability. As Mr. Delisio quoted Ms. Gignac, she stood at that podium and told us there will be sacrifices that this community is going to have to make to provide us the ability to buy this piece of land. My biggest concern, and I was point of ordered, my biggest concern is that the residents of this city, and most specifically the abutters, have a reasonable expectation of what's going to happen with this land in the future. We are in charge of what happens to it. I've had many conversations with a variety of people. Everyone has pushed me to give my determination as to where I stand and things like that. And maybe more people, some people got more, hey, more yes, people calling them. I had people yelling out their car window at me the other night. I think it's important to set appropriate expectations. I'm concerned that we're going into an area where the city of Attleboro doesn't really have a reference point. We're all of a sudden going to be real estate brokers. And I'm very concerned about the future of the city. When we have unfunded mandates that come down, I sound like Frank Cook all of a sudden, that we have unfunded mandates that come down and cost the city real money. $500,000 for a vector machine for the DPW because we're going to be mandated by the state to do that. That's not in a calculation for our debt capacity. There's a variety of things that are going to come down. And I will say right now, I understand that there are many people that are in support of this. I will be supportive of this when it comes in front of the full council. I think that I hope that when the time comes and we are not able to provide a service, or there's the potential that we might have to lay people off, or that we can't actually comply with a state mandate, that people understand that this is where it came from. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you for your comments. Councilor Jackson?
Thank you. First of all, Councilor, you know how last week the Tamposi sent us a communication about a partnership?
Yes.
So, since you've probably sat and spoke with the mayor, did he have any conversations with them at all or discuss that because they wanted to do 50-50?
I have not spoken with the mayor, especially as it relates to that proposal that was sent down. President Cooper?
Thank you. So if I may, to answer
Of
your
course.
specific question, Councilor Jackson. So I was going to wait to read my comments until the full council meeting and give up the seat, but I guess I'll do it now because the answer to your question is within my comments.
Okay.
So do you mind?
Do you mind if I just ask another question?
Sure.
Maybe that's in your comments too. Since we weren't able to discuss what's actually going to happen to this land, I know he's all over the place with ideas. Do we happen to know at least what his plans are to care for the land? Because now we all know it's well overgrown and it's going to get far worse. It's a hot mess now. It's going to be a hotter mess, which means the abutters will be calling somebody, and they better not call us. They better call his office. But I want to know, like, who's going to care for that land and how are we going to care for it, since we don't have a big, huge mower they need like a $30,000 mower to take care of that property. So that's a big concern for me right now, because you're going to have kids going in there and partying all the time. You're going to have, I think of it as Beagle Club Road, all the hassles that we've all been through with that. Like, it's just going to become another nightmare, because we don't know of a plan to care for it and to protect these people who have come before us. So I was just curious if anybody's spoken with the mayor about that at all.
So before I recognize President Cooper, I believe he has, but I think that's a very cogent point that several of us raised several times, and we never really got a clear answer on that. I feel it was kind of pushed to the side. So I think, as Vice President Parika's comments is, going forward, we have to hold, if this passes, it's our job to hold the administration, really, we take ownership of that in terms of what we expect and what we need to have happen. I'm going to turn it over to President Cooper.
Thank you. So first, to answer Councilor Jackson's second question with regard to the maintenance and upkeep, I didn't have a specific conversation with the mayor regarding that, but he did make some comments to me about letting it be, if you will, and reforest itself as they develop a plan to include, all the things that were said to us as could-bes, whether it's walking trails, potentially developing or selling some of it that has existing road frontage, potentially doing something with the kitchen space, potentially solar was an option, an amphitheater was an option. There were lots of options, all that at certain levels cost us money. So we have to sort of talk through that, I think, but there was nothing sort of concrete about the ongoing maintenance today. Are we going to secure the buildings? Are we going to shut the power off? what are we going to do with the structures that are there, all needs to be resolved. So that there was no sort of specifics on how to maintain that. The new park and forestry superintendent, Derek, is an architect, landscape architect, and he and the mayor had been in conversation about sort of what to do with the land, and I think that there will be a plan coming, but I don't think that there's anything concrete at the moment.
Thank you.
Welcome. So, again, I was going to give up the seat when we got to the council meeting. I was going to hold my comments to the end, but I think I'll do it now since you brought that up and Jay made a few comments. So first and foremost, let me say that I too am in agreement with the purchase and acquisition of the Highland Country Club. It is in Ward 2, and I am the Ward 2 counselor, and I heard lots of people on both sides of this. And in fact, Jeremiah was answering the phone, and he would say, "It's about the golf course again." He'd yell up the stairs to me, so he knows about it. But what I don't agree with is Councilor Delicio thinking that it's fine that we did not discuss or talk with an interested party in coming to the city of Attleboro. And I want everyone in the city of Attleboro to know that I personally attempted many times to arrange a meeting with the Tamposis, and would have done that with any developer, whether they were from this community or not. They were interested, and they were interested in coming to the city of Attleboro. And you know what? The time and place for them was not Highland Country Club. I agree with everybody that came here. The time and place for the Tamposi brothers or any of their entities is not at Highland Country Club. But there is an opportunity here in the city of Attleboro for them. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples that I think we should have put them in a car and drove them around here and showed them the great community that this is. And we didn't do that. We slammed the door in their face. So, we all just voted for an economic development director. Is this how we're going to treat everybody that wants to come to the city of Attleboro? Not talk to them? I know that doesn't happen. I know that we just had a conversation with a developer to put hundreds of condominiums on Route 1 in South Attleboro. I know that happened. Is South Attleboro any less than the center of the city? I don't think so. I'm the Ward 2 counselor, so I'm sort of biased to Highland Country Club, but I don't think it is. That part of the city is, guess what? Ward 2. So we're in a dilemma, right? The opportunity, like I said, for the Tamposis or any other developer is not now at Highland Country Club. But we must be business friendly. We say it all the time. But we have to demonstrate that. We should have brought them around, as I said, and showcase what we are. How about the sports complex? Right? That started as an industrial park. It's a huge parcel of land, and we've rezoned it to allow the sports complex to come in, and they're limping along. They're limping along. We were all told this was 2 years, X $1 million project. We all met up at the library, and this is what they were going to put in. How about bring them through there? They want a unique project? I'll show you one. I'll show you one. I'll take you up to Ides Hill, and I'll make you walk up to the water tower and show you the view, and show you where you can put a hotel, and where you can do this and where you could do that, and call the investors in New York and see if they're interested in sitting at the table with you and doing something. How about Wall Street? How many times are we going to hear that Crugnali is going to do something on Wall Street, but he can't afford to do it now, and 2 days later, read in the paper that in Mansfield, he's building a new building? I'm tired of that. Let's show the Tamposis Wall Street, or any other developer that wants to come forward. How about the mill buildings on County Street? That pieces of them are falling into the river. Is that a unique property? Is that a unique opportunity? Yeah, it is. How about our TOD area? How about where Reynolds and Markman was? How about we get that cleaned up, and how about we say, here's what we have to do to make this happen. Are you interested in this? Here's a unique property, to be right near the MBTA. We didn't. We slammed the door in their face. I'm hopeful that we vote, and everyone here votes in the affirmative to purchase Highland Country Club. But I remain open to ideas for development in the future of Attleboro. We can't say we're business friendly and continue to slam the door in people's faces. We have to be open to new ideas and new ways. Highland Country Club is not the answer for them, but let's bring them somewhere else. Let's bring anybody, and I don't care whether you've been here for 100 years or you've never been here before. Let's show this city. If somebody's interested in investing in this city, Let's show them what we're all about. Let's show them that we are business friendly, and let's get something worked out for anybody that wants to come forward, and that concludes my comments. Thank you. Hopefully I answered your question.
Like the public hearing, I'm going to give you some class on that.
Thank you, President Cooper. You know, anyone else have any other comments before we move on? What we need to be doing, and I think one positive that has come out of this, is I think that it's illustrated the importance of how we need to be good business partners with those who want to come to the city. When I said it was okay for the mayor not to sit down with them, we can't change that now. That ship has sailed, and that's what my comment was. We need to always be looking for ways that as a city, we can make money, save money, and be able to continue to grow. Business today is a lot different than it was business 10 years ago, which means we're going to have to be creative. So I was very happy to hear President Cooper mention some of these other properties. We do have other properties. We do have other pieces of land that we could have development. Highland is not that property, and I think we've all agreed that. Due to the sensitivity of this, what I'm going to ask is that everyone who had prepared statements to please give a copy to Virginia so we can get them into the record, because I think everyone's statements were thought out, they were heartfelt, and they were genuine. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Motion passes. That is all the business I have tonight for budget and appropriations, and I'd like to call, I'll do that later. I'd call for an adjournment at 8:01.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We adjourned at 8:01.
Laura, did you cancel? Okay, traffic and transportation is canceled for this evening?
Should we get Council Conti back?
Oh, yeah. I will, I'm gonna go read them. Yes.
Right all here? All right, so I call the Zoning and Land Use Committee to order at 8:02. On my committee is myself, Councilor Hall, Councilor Delicio. I only have one item to discuss tonight, and that's from the docket of February 20th, 2018. I entertain a motion that under Mass General Law, Chapter 64N, Section 3, the city impose a local sales tax upon the sale or transfer of marijuana or marijuana products by a marijuana retailer operating within the city to anyone other than a marijuana establishment at a rate not greater than 3% of the total sales price received by the marijuana retailer as a consideration for the sale of marijuana or marijuana products. The marijuana retailer shall pay the local sales tax imposed under this section to the commissioner at the same time and in the same manner as the sales tax due to the Commonwealth.
Second.
So this is relatively straightforward. This is just a motion to adopt the local option for Mass General Law, Chapter 64N, Section 3. And this is adopting it as amended by Chapter 55 of the Acts of 2017. The initial reading of this talks about a 2% tax. As amended by Chapter 55 of the Acts of 2017, change that from a 2% tax or a maximum of 2% to a maximum of 3%. This business was originally introduced by Councilor Conti back in February of this year. So, like I said, this is just to adopt the local option to say that the administration can tax marijuana sales up to 3%. That tax would be collected as part of collecting their normal state sales tax and then returned to us, I think it's quarterly. So, fairly straightforward. Are there any questions?
It's more of a comment. So thank you, Council Conti, for bringing this in. This is something that I do support. You know, when we look at this and we talk about all this great revenue that the marijuana industry is going to bring in, we don't know that. And it's a high cash business. And Council, you talked about that last week. I think what this does is it helps to ensure that the city is getting some semblance of revenue out of this new industry. Part of my concern is when they first open up, it's going to be novelty. And, you know, if we're banking on money that we don't know what's coming in yet, I think it's very dangerous. However, if we have this mechanism in place, I think it allows us to be a little bit more prudent when we're planning for fiscal matters. So I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hall?
Yes, sure. I just have one question. So you're saying up to 3%. So that number isn't established yet. You're just allowing the act to be put on the books. Is that correct?
Correct, it's to adopt the local option,
Gotcha.
and then the administration specifies.
So we would at one point in the future anticipate that coming down to say what that percentage might be?
My understanding is it's just the administration
Gotcha, okay.
specifies the.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't see.
Councilor Delicio's comments are, first of all, you've got it absolutely right. So all your comments are right in line with the intent of the original new business. Councilor Delicio's comments bring up an issue that is very important. That the revenue stream from the 3% tax is going to start out as a trickle, and then it's going to mushroom into a flow. And as chairman of the Budget and Administration Committee, I want you to try to keep it in the back of your mind of how is there a mechanism whereby, as that becomes a wave, how can we cap off a bunch of the top of that revenue stream, because it's gonna reduce and become a trickle and a stream again.
Sure.
So there's going to be sort of a pig in the python effect of the revenue, and we have to be certain that at the thickest point of that flow, that the money is going to be put aside someplace safe for our future. And I haven't thought about how we might do that, other than on the council throwing money into the stabilization fund. And we have limited control on how to do that, because it's gonna be dependent upon who is in the administration at the time when that tide hits. So, by speaking of it, at least we can make everybody knowledgeable about it, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Conti, and I'm very happy you mentioned the pig in the python reference, meaning the graph that goes up, the amount of revenue coming in, and then goes back down. Councilor Delicio.
Through the chair to Council Conti, I appreciate your comments, and I think that that's something that this falls in line with a lot of what you and I have been talking about throughout the course of this term, and I think that there are different ways that we could be able to do it. My concern is that it is so heavily regulated that we have to figure out from a state standpoint, what can we operate within, as well as I think, we have the luxury in front of us to be able to pioneer that road at a municipal level, but what can we do within a state level? So certainly food for thought.
President Cooper?
Thank you. I'm in agreement in what I think you're all saying is that we need to look before we leap in terms of what we're going to get for money before we go banking on it year over year. There will be, in addition, each of the host agreements I'm looking at one now, in addition to the 3% local, there's a 3% of gross sales that also comes to the city. Each of the host agreements are a little different, but nevertheless, there are host agreements for each of these entities before we issue our non-opposition letter. And, we just want to be careful that what we anticipate or what we see this year or next is enough to sustain what we intend to do with it for the following year, and that is going to continue. And I want to be cautious about it. I also want to make sure that the mayor hears, at least from me, that while we can go up to 3%, I want it to be 3%. I want it to be the max that it can be. It's a cash retail business. This isn't medical. This is for retail consumption, and I think that if we're going to do that, we ought to tax it at the 3%, and that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cooper. I agree as well that I'd like to see it at the maximum 3%, and I assume that's the intent. Is there anybody else? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. So that concludes my business for the Zoning and Land Use Committee. Move to adjourn at 8:09.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Zoning and Land Use Committee is adjourned at 8:09.
So I'd like to call the Capital Improvements and Development Committee to order at 8:09. Sitting with me on this committee is Vice President Bolin and Member Councilor Hall. I have two matters to bring before you this evening from the docket of July 17, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to rescind $762,479 of the Oak Hill Water Storage Tank Rehabilitation Authorization, as the remaining debt will not be issued. This vote will reduce the city's authorized and unissued debt regarding the review of the water enterprise capital projects, which indicates that the unused debt associated with the fund number 3318 Oak Hill Water Storage Tank rehabilitation should be rescinded as the project is completed and no further debt will be issued for the project.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Hall. So this is good news. To the members of the public, we voted $2,670,000 in February of 2016, before some of you were here, to do the work on a water tank. And I actually went up there, and when the tank was open and stuck my head in there, it's a very interesting experience. The long-term debt issued for this project on May 18, 2018, in the amount of $1.5 million. The short-term issuance was $1.9 million. And the project was funded in part by retained earnings in the amount of $1.53. The point is that this is a case where the lowest cost bidder, using their noggin and well managed by a Superior Water Department, were able to pull the project off with $762,000 left over, which we can take right off our debt roll. And so it's a very, very good news, and very happy this is happening. It's on the water side, so it's not citywide, but still, we can spend a lot of money real fast on water. And that concludes my comments. Is there any other comments? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. From the docket of June 19, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve. I thought you had your hand up. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $45,000 from account 12201-000-51100 fire safety to account 12201-000-587-034 fire SUV regarding replacement of a command car with a new four-wheel drive SUV with required accessories. It was voted out of committee but held on June 19th, and I'm reading the motion now because I have an answer to the question that was asked the night that we voted it out of committee.
So second.
It doesn't need to be second.
Okay.
We've already voted it out of committee. I spoke with the chief, and I believe that at the time I spoke to the chief, he hadn't really thought through exactly which car he was going to let go. But in talking to him, that the council really wanted an answer, he made the decision then and there that the command car would be the car that's going to go down the line. And I think that is an excellent decision, because the car we want to work the most, and the most assuredly, is the car that's at the top of the department. So I was kind of pleased with the answer that he gave me. I'm also pleased with the 5 or 6 year turnaround on those vehicles, because as Councilor Dolan and Councilor Koba saw when we toured the fire department, oftentimes those vehicles are kept running during a 24-hour period if there's an emergency, because the car itself becomes a communication station. And boy, it's only when you get into that fire department and you see what's going on that you understand why you need a $45,000 command car. But I highly recommend the motion be passed. And that concludes my comments, and that concludes the business I have for the Capital Improvement Committee this evening. So I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. All in favor? Aye. I declare the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee adjourned at 8:13. Thank you.
I'd like to call Public Works Committee to order at 8:13. I have one motion this evening from the docket of July 17, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $117,000 from account 6100-359000 Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to account 3330-499000 Deanville Road, other financing sources regarding the need for funds for the design and engineering relative to the replacement of Deanville Road water main on Mass DOT land.
Second.
Thank you, welcome. So I'm just going to step back a bit. So on February 15th of this year, we had an emergency measure come down because a water main break had broken in a section of Deanville Road, and there was actually, I think there were 2 homes without water. We voted to fix the repair. So on June 6th, they went down to fix the repair, only to find out that it wasn't where they thought it was in a certain portion of the land. It was actually underneath the highway, so it's a lot bigger than what they thought, of course, so it needs to be replaced. The repair will not hold. This is what this money is for the design, engineering, and permitting services for replacement of the water main. Sounded good.
Right? It sounded like summer right over there.
Louder than how
It's
I
your
tell
home.
people
We're early. Any
We're hoping to get
questions?
to at least 9 o'clock tonight.
Comments? Questions? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I have no further business this evening for the Public Works Committee. I'd like to call for an adjournment at 8:15.
Second?
Thank you. We are, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:15.
I'd like to call to order the Public Safety Emergency Management Committee at 8:15. I have two motions this evening. From the docket of July 17, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to allow the police department to expend approximately $93,651 in any future grant amendments of the Public Safety Answering Port Support and Initiative Grant from the FY 2019 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, State 9/11 Department.
Second.
Again, it's a great grant. It's going to be put to use in a proper manner. We still have to give those grant writers in this city, no matter what department they're from, kudos. Because a lot of cities don't have that ability to write those grants and get those grants awarded to them. So kudos to the grant writers.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, Chairman Blair, it goes to speak to not just the grant writing, which we've talked about 1.5 million times, but it's the partnership with the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, which we see several grants. But I think the key clause in this is no match is required
No
by the
match.
city. So that's $93,000 that the city doesn't have to match, which I think goes a long, long way.
And it certainly helps us with expenses that would come out of the general fund if we're going to keep these services up and the programs going. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposition? None. Motion passes. Secondly, from the docket of July 17, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $11,926 from account 1000-359,000, undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account 1100-210-582510, general fund, continuing appropriation, police department renovations regarding the need for funds to replace the police department kitchenette to include applicable appliances.
Second.
Any of you with your tour of the police department looked at this particular area and said, it's not really conclusive to taking care of our guys in blue over there when they need a coffee or make their meal, whatever they're doing. So it's way overdue, and I don't think that's a tremendous amount of money when anybody here has ever redone their kitchen at home. Yes, Mr. President.
I was there when we went on the tours and I saw this, and I agree. I agree emphatically that this is long overdue and needed.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. I have no other business this evening for Public Safety Emergency Management. I look to adjourn at 8:19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, we should. Look at this. This is the. It's very interesting. I have to tell you, I was thrilled reading this stuff.
You said 6 minutes.
8:25.
I have documents of Anthony Fauci.
So I have Kate.
It wasn't just given. People were selling the land to this.
Absolutely, so did I.
Do they have salad here? Too crazy. Looking for a thumbs up.
We're ready.
Please sign up.
Okay. Call the special meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 8:26. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice of the special meeting?
I will. Date, June 5th, 2018. Members of the Municipal Council from Mark J. Cooper, Council President. Councilors, by authority of Article 2, Section 2-7C of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Date, Tuesday, June 26, 2018. Time, 7 p.m. Place, Council Chambers. Purpose, any legal matter that may come before the Council. CC, Mayor Paul Heroux.
Thank you. We are going to go right to committee reports, and we're going... No, I don't have to. It's a special meeting. We're going to go right to committee reports, starting with Councilor Blair. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, President Cooper. Reporting for Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee. From the docket of July 17, 2018, I move to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro to allow the police department to expend approximately $93,651 in any future grant amendment of the Public Safety Answering Port Support and Initiative grant from FY 2019 Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, State 911 Department.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any comments, Councilor Blair?
No, I just gave a spiel about 5 minutes ago.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
Vice President Perica.
Yes.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
From the docket, where we going? From the docket of July 19, 2018, I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $11,926 from account 1-000-359000, undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account 1100-210-582510, general fund, continuing appropriation, police department renovations, regarding the need for funds to replace the police station kitchenette to include applicable appliances.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Councilor Blair.
And we talked about it a few minutes ago.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Hall.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
Vice President Perica.
Yes.
Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. I have no other business this evening for public safety and emergency management, and I call to adjourn at 8:29.
Thank you. Councilor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for Public Works Committee from the docket of July 17, 2018. I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $117,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund retained earning accounts to the Deanville Road Other Financing Sources account regarding the needs for funds for the design and engineering relative to the replacement of Deanville Road water main on Mass DOT land.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Councilor Jackson.
No, I just made those a few minutes ago.
Great.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or comments? Councilor Delicio.
Just in the effort of full disclosure, I am an employee of MassDOT, but I have no financial interest in this.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
Vice President Perica.
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no further business this evening for Public Works, but would like to call for a committee meeting at the appropriate time next month.
Thank you. Before I recognize Council Conti, we'll go back to Council Blair, because
Yes.
you
I thought
made
I
a
was
motion
on
to adjourn.
vacation next month. No, I call for a committee meeting next month, the appropriate time.
Thank you.
please.
Thank you. Council Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for the Capital Improvement City Development Committee from the docket of July 17th, I move to approve the request of the mayor to rescind $762,479 of the Oak Hill Water Storage Tank Rehabilitation Authorization, as the remaining debt will not be issued. The vote will reduce the city's authorized and unissued debt regarding a review of the Water Department capital projects, which indicates that the unused debt associated with Fund 3318 Oak Hill Water Storage Tank Rehabilitation should be rescinded as the project is completed and no further debt will be issued for the project.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Council Conti.
Yes, Mr. President, there was a full explanation about 30 minutes ago. Just wind the internet back and you can see it all. And that concludes my comments.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote. We'll begin with Council Hall.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Vice President Perica?
Yes.
Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of June 19, 2018, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $45,000 from the fire salary account to the fire SUV account regarding the replacement of a command car with a new four-wheel drive SUV with required accessories.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Council Conti.
I would invite the public to rewind the internet about 30 minutes and they can see a full explanation. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote. That'll start with Council Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Perica?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes the business to capital improvements the City Development Committee has to bring before the full council tonight. We look forward for a meeting at the next month at the appropriate time.
Great. Thank you. Council Cobus.
Reporting for the Zoning and Land Use Committee, I have one item to discuss tonight, and that's from the docket of February 20th, 2018. I move to approve that under Mass General Law, Chapter 64 and Section 3, the city impose a local sales tax upon the sale or transfer of marijuana or marijuana products by a marijuana retailer operating within the city to anyone other than a marijuana establishment at a rate not greater than 3% of the total sales price received by the marijuana retailer as a consideration for the sale of marijuana or marijuana products. The marijuana retailer shall pay the local sales tax imposed under this section to the commissioner at the same time and in the same manner as the sales tax due to the Commonwealth.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Council Cobus.
We just discussed this. Again, this is to adopt the local option for Chapter 64 and Section 3.
Any other questions or comments? Council Holmes.
I just want to say that we're really lucky to have Councilor Cobus, because I've just been reading in the paper how many other areas are really struggling with this, and it's really such an asset that we have you to be able to do so much of this work. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but understand that this was introduced by Councilor
Oh,
Conti.
I'm sorry. Well, you know how to reach out to them.
Perfect.
I'll still give it to you. That's awesome. No, it is a team effort with things that like this. This has been a big undertaking, so.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote. That'll start with Council Hall.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Vice President Perica?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That concludes my business for the Zoning and Land Use Committee, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Vice President Perica.
Reporting for Transportation and Traffic Committee, we don't have any business this evening. I just wanted to take a moment, and we're off until July, and I want to invite everybody who hasn't been to the farmers market to come out. I'm incredibly thrilled and grateful to the city of Attleboro and their residents and the surrounding communities for being so supportive. It's been an amazing year so far. We had over 14,000 people come on the first day. And I just want to express my gratitude to the residents around here that are supportive of it. Swing by the management tent, say hello. There we have it. I call for a community meeting next month at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Delissio.
Thank you. Reporting for budget and appropriations. From the docket of July 17th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $110,000 from E-rate stabilization fund, other financing uses, to fund E-rate IT fund, other financing sources regarding the need for an appropriation from the E-rate stabilization fund in order to engineer, build, and utilize a Wi-Fi network that will be installed at the high school.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Council Delissio.
No comments. We discussed this about an hour and a half ago.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Vice President Parika.
So as a mom of 2 high schoolers, formerly 3, like the parents in the city of Attleboro are going to be so excited that the high school has Wi-Fi. It tends to be rather expensive. The kids do use their phones or their tablets or things like that in the school system. Reception there is spotty at best. So on behalf of the parents of high school students, I will, A, support this, B, I'm forever grateful for it, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote. We'll begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair? Yes. Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of July 17th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro to allow the Council on Aging to expend approximately $18,822 for the first quarter, with the anticipated balance of approximately $75,285 of the fiscal year 2019 Shine Grant, and also to expend any further grant amendments.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Councilor Delissio.
No further comments. Again, discussed this an hour and a half ago.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote that will begin with Council Hall.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, President Cooper. From the docket of July 17th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro to allow the Council on Aging to expend approximately $94,812 of the fiscal year 2019 formula grant to of approximately $94,812 and any further grant amendments.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Councilor
No
Blair.
comments.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, a roll call vote is required, and we'll start with Councilor Blair.
Blair?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the supplemental docket of June 5th, 2018, I entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to purchase on behalf of the... Oh, wait.
Yes. Councilor Conti. Thank you. No.
From the
So
supplemental...
before you start, I've heard some suggestion of waiving the reading, and I'm not going to entertain that given
I
the
wasn't
nature
gonna
of the,
suggest
thank you.
From the supplemental docket of June 5th, 2018, I entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to purchase on behalf of the city of Attleboro from the Chapter 7 trustee of the estate of the Highland Country Club of Attleboro, Mass. for the United States Bankruptcy Court for the District of Massachusetts Eastern Division for a purchase price of $3,021,066.66, certain land adjacent to the Frank R. Sweet Memorial Forest on terms and conditions satisfactory to the mayor. Said land, together with the buildings thereon, being known as the Highland Country Club and located at 104 Mechanic Street, Attleboro, Massachusetts, and more particularly described as parcels A, B, and C, as shown on a plan entitled Plan of Land in Attleboro, Massachusetts, to be conveyed to Highland Country Club of Attleboro, Mass., scale 200 feet to an inch, December 1975, James A. Freeman Engineering Incorporated, 429 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass., which plan is recorded in Bristol County Northern District Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 154 on page 80, and also that land described in Book 1693, page 131, recorded in said Registry of Deeds, and to borrow the appropriate funds needed for the purchase of such land.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Counselor Delicio.
I have nothing else to add.
Any other questions or comments? Counselor Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I did save my prepared speech for the end. I was notified at about 8:30 this morning that we'd be voting on Highland Country Club, the property acquisition tonight. Let me be clear that my vote will not be based on forward-looking politics towards the next election cycle. I have, like my colleagues on this council, heard from many people, and I very much appreciate everybody's input, both for and against this purchase. I respect the professional conduct of many of the speakers at last week's public hearing, and honestly was disappointed at some references made to the Tamposi family and Attorney Casey, who I hold in the highest regard as an upstanding member of our community. Excuse me. We, as a people, are better than that, and I apologize to the Tamposis and Attorney Casey for any references that they may have been offended by. Attleboro faces many challenges. As one speaker pointed out last week, many of the decisions made by this council will affect this city in years to come, and it is unlikely that any of us sitting before you tonight will be here to receive the accolades or criticism for our work done now. Our infrastructure is paramount to providing services to our residents, current and in the future. Our police department is housed in a building that was never designed for its current purpose and was converted from an Elks Lodge to a police station in 1985. To describe that, to describe that facility as a money pit would be an understatement. Our newest fire station is almost 20 years old and is followed in second place by the Briggs Corner Station, built in 1969, and it has not been updated to serve the needs of that section of the city with its residential growth, elderly housing unit, and long-term care facility. Our fire headquarters dates back to the 1800s, with the only major update being the completion of the apparatus bays added on in 1959 to allow for office and living space in the original structure. Otherwise, the members of the department over the years have provided much time and talent to keep that building functioning, and I thank them for that. There's still work to be done at Finberg Field and many other city-owned parcels of land and roadways. Our schools and city departments are still stretched thin to provide for our children, residents, and those who come to visit our parks and recreational facilities. Our employees do a fantastic job with the resources available. However, there will come a day when the need to add staff will be imminent. Nobody wants to see taxes raised. Not often have I seen someone approach the podium here in these chambers in support of raising taxes. That day, however, will come when it becomes necessary. We can't, as a city, continue to authorize spending knowing that one day we will need to write a check to cover our expenses. I sincerely hope that when that day does arrive, we have the same support that we had last week to raise taxes as we do to commit tax dollars. I know that my comments may sound like doom and gloom. That's not my intent. I do, however, feel the need to voice my concerns for future generations as it relates to providing services and facilities from which to provide these services. In the end, and after much contemplation and reflection, despite the cost to commit to this endeavor and my concern over covering such, I do believe that to not support this purchase would one day be regretful. Whatever the future holds for this property is yet to be known. Many people have visions. A decision needs to be made now to purchase or not, and I only hope that when the day comes for this city to ultimately form a plan for this large parcel, it is one that will be beneficial to us now and for future generations. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, this requires a 2/3 roll call vote, and we need 8 affirmative votes. And it's of sitting members, not just those present. So it still doesn't change that Council Conti has abstained. There needs to be 8 in the affirmative. Does everybody understand what we're voting? Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, we will have a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Hall.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes?
Ms. Dolan.
Yes. 'Yes. 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 'Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, President Cooper. From the supplemental docket of June 5th, 2018, I entertain a motion to adopt the following loan order. Ordered that $3,100,000 is appropriated for the acquisition of land, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow $3,100,000 under Section 7, subsection 1 of Chapter 44 of the general laws, or any other enabling authority, and that the mayor is authorized to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out this acquisition. Any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this order, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this order in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 7, subsection 1 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any other questions or comments about the loan order? Again, this requires it, Councilor Delicio.
Just one through the chair to Councilor Jackson. Kudos. I think your words were very accurate, and I know they probably are going for both, so just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Cobus.
I'd just like to reiterate my concerns I raised earlier about the lack of information provided to us and being dissatisfied with that information provided. And I encourage the budget chair to continue to follow up on those questions and get answers back to us. But after considering it, I'm not sure that answers would sway my vote, so I am comfortable on voting now. But I do encourage you to follow up on those questions.
Thank you, Councilor Delicio.
Through the chair to Councilor Copus, you have my commitment.
Thank you.
Councilor Holmes.
I think that it is important that the administration understands that this is a trust. We're trusting that the next part is, there's going to be something that comes before us with what's going to happen with this land, that a committee is going to be formed or something's going to happen. That was a commitment that was made to us, and I think I hear a lot of concerns around that, and I agree. So we need to see something happen, because we're saying okay to this, so there needs to be some kind of response on this property.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Again, this requires a 2/3 roll call vote. Will require 8 votes in the affirmative to pass. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay. We will have a roll call vote, and it will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Delicio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Before I adjourn, I just want to take a second and recognize the Attleboro Youth Commission for their work throughout the process of collecting funds for the fireworks. So far to date, they've collected roughly $1,200 since Memorial Day. Also would like to thank Councilors Dolan and Holmes for standing out with us in a little competition. We had council versus the Youth Commission. It was very neck and neck. I think the winning team is yet to be determined.
Depends on how big
Depends
the
on-
deck. You're right.
It's the Youth Commission, you can bank on it, because as the texts were going around, thank you for all that work. I sent a text back to Jay and said the Youth Commission wins no matter what, so I know, Councilor Dolan actually sent me a funny text back and said, point of order. So, but nevertheless, I think the Youth Commission does a great job. Jay, thank you for leading that effort, and I am going to put another plug in tonight. We did do the event with Dunkin' Donuts to give us the $10,000 that they commit to the city when we raise $10,000. And I wrote on my cup as I drove through the drive-through, our fireworks run on Dunkin' Donuts. So really, we, without Dunkin' Donuts this year in particular, we would really be have a problem with fully funding the fireworks through the great work of the committee, Councilors Cobus, Holmes, and Jay, or Dolan? No, Dolan. No, you. Yeah, the three of you. The mayor and I are the ones that met to say who to do it. So thank you all for your work on it. Thank you to Virginia in the office for putting it together. Thank you to the mayor for listening to us saying, we're not going to have enough money. And so it'll be great. It's a great time. Good times had by all. So thanks again.
And Linda Alger, who was here on
Oh,
Saturday.
and Linda, thank you very
Yep.
much. Yep.
Linda and Zoe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that concludes the business for budget and appropriations. We'd like to call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Dolan.
Reporting for License Committee, I have no business this evening, but would like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time next month.
Thank you. Council Reynolds.
I wrote all over mine, I'm sorry, I'm doodling tonight. So, okay, from City Property and Claims, from the docket of July 17th, 2018, I have two motions, and they replicate exactly what I did a few half hour ago. I move to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of $250 in Stop and Shop gift certificates from the Attleboro Elks Riders to the Veterans Department.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any other questions or comments?
None.
Hearing none, a voice vote is required. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
I move to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to allow the Attleboro Public Library to expend approximately $15,000 of the grant from the National Endowment for the Arts to the City of Attleboro for the community-wide Big Read program and any other further grant amendments by the Attleboro Public Library to support the Big Read program activities as authorized by the granting authority.
Second?
Thank you. Motion's in order. Councilor Reynolds. Any questions or comments from anyone else? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Council Hall.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Licio?
Yes.
Vice President Perico?
Yes.
Hovis?
Yes.
Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson? Yes. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That is all the business from City Property and Claims Committee, and I would like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Holmes.
Reporting for Personnel and Human Services Committee, from the docket of July 17, 2018, I entertain a motion to confirm the reappointment of Brad Goldstein to the Cultural Council for a 2-year term. Term expires February 2020.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Just grateful that people are volunteering for these commissions.
Any other questions or comments? Voice vote is required. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of July 17, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to establish a laboratory manager position to be placed at grade 7 on the city's classification plan.
Second?
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any questions or comments?
We received backup documentation on this. That's pretty much it.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, a voice vote is required. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
That's all the business for Personnel and Human Service Committee, and I will call for committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on one second. Council Hall.
Thank you. This is on reporting for ordinance, elections, and legislative matters committee. From the docket of May 15, 2018, I move to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 14, 2018, relative to amending revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro, Chapter 3, building to amend Section 3-9, work started prior to obtaining permit. May I waive the rest of the reading?
Yes.
Waive the rest of the reading, is what I think I said.
Second?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Any other questions or comments?
Thing from me?
Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, this requires a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye, thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of December 19th, 2017, I move that all commercial and industrial classification accounts in the city with personal property assessments at $10,000 and lower shall be exempt from personal property taxation. Said exemption shall be a local adoption under Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Taxation, Section 18, exemption under Section 5, and shall become effective for fiscal year 2019.
Second?
Thank you. Motion is in order. Council Hall.
Nothing. I think it's a very, very good thing for our small business to show we are small business friendly.
Excellent. Thank you. Any it takes more than a $10,000 personal exemption, I will say that. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. This is a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Council Blair.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
Yes.
Clovis.
Yes.
Vice President Parika.
Yes.
Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
That's it. I mean, it's been a pleasure working with all of you on this fine evening, and I look forward to a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. There is one item of old business, and I will recognize Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. To rescind the following vote from June 19th, 2018, certificate of vote as it was already taken and approved on June 5th, 2018. Let me read the whole thing.
Yes.
Voted on a roll call, 11 yeas, 0 nays, to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $2,500 from protective inspection salary to account protective inspection professional services related to the communication from the building commissioner for funds to pay the alternate electrical inspector due to a leave of absence of the electrical inspector.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments or questions?
Just voted on twice, an error that we're correcting.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote. We'll begin with Councilor Hall.
Ms. Hall.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Ms. Dolan.
Yes.
Mr. Delissio.
Yes.
Vice President Parika.
Yes.
Clovis.
Yes.
Conti.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes,
11 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. Before we adjourn,
Rules of committee in July.
tell me again the day?
I think it's July 11th.
July 11th. Yep, okay, great. Anything else from any of them? No? So I just want to take 1/2 a millisecond to thank all of you for your time and efforts related to what is a very busy season through May and June, and then followed by a very busy season with the most recent vote this evening. So I want to thank all of you for your time and your phone calls and your discussions that we've had over the last couple of weeks, and we will see each other in July, and would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned 8:57.
Grab your name tags.
Thank you.